Thank you for tuning in to Hacks and Hobbies with your host, Junaid. In Season 2 of Hacks and Hobbies, we're visited by our amazing guests coming from all walks of life who want to learn their story, their struggles, and their journey on how they got to where they are today. So stick around. In this episode, I get to speak with Tom Malloy. He's an actor, writer, and producer, and he's been on many movies and TV shows. And I had the opportunity to attend his workshop at the VIP Film and TV Summit here in Northern Virginia. And I learned a lot of amazing things about the movie business, especially from the production side of things. Now, being in so many different hobbies, I had very little experience into what it all takes, and just having produced one short film last month for a Make a Month movie project, this was like right in line to this couldn't have been a better time than meeting and attending something that goes into production. And I had the opportunity to attend the workshop, and I got to talk to Tom, and I was like, hey, I would love to bring you on and talk more about you and how you got into this business. So thank you so much, Tom.
Thank you for having me. Happy to be here. Definitely.
Awesome. So I'm not sure how aware of Tom Malloy my audience might be. So let's just do a little bit of rundown of who Tom Malloy is and what he's doing on this earth.
Well, I mean, it's I started as an actor, and the kind of quick story is that but I always wanted to be since I was young. I mean, in fourth grade, I was the lead male role in Peter Pan. Peter Pan was a girl. I was Captain Hook. So it always has been a dream of mine. And the first big role was an independent film we shot on the streets of Brooklyn called Gravesend back in 1998. Yeah. And we'd go up to a street corner, there'd be a gang of thugs there, and we'd be like, you guys want to shoot a fight scene? They'd be like, yeah, and big fights would break out, and but we improvised the whole movie, and when it was done, we got Oliver Stone to put his name on it, and I was probably the second or third biggest role in the movie, and it was in theaters. I thought, well, I'm never going to have to work outside of the movie business there. I thought I would just go to the mailbox and there'd just be scripts there, and offers, and but it kind of didn't happen that way. I just learned every other aspect of the movie business. I really focused on listening and learning, and making a long story short, I've starred in a bunch of movies. Love and Dancing with Amy Smart, Betty White, The Alphabet Killer with Eliza Dushku and Carrie Elways, Tim Hutton. And I've just produced my 15th film. And wow. Yeah, and as far as writing goes, I'm in the Writers Guild. I've written 30-something screenplays, and I've option sold or made into movies 24 of those screenplays. So
nice, beautiful.
I also own a company that sells movies called Glasshouse Distribution. So I couldn't be more involved in the movie business if I tried, unless I started my own catering business or something like that. Other than that, I've covered every aspect of movies. So yeah,
that is really cool because. So growing up, I didn't have that much say into watching movies because we grew up back in the Saudis. Mm-hmm. The only TV access we had was from 5 to 10 p.m. A lot of TV. And we only had 2 channels. One was the English one, and the other one was in Arabic language. So we just had access to very limited movies and whatnot. But as coming through the timeline, I got introduced to movies, and I was like, oh my God, this is super fascinating. This is so amazing. Let me learn a little bit more. And I never thought to go to film school. I was like, I'm just going to figure this all out on my own. Mm-hmm. Just stumbling across through different technology because passion for technology. So that was really cool.
Yeah.
So what aspect of movie filmmaking, and you've covered the whole gamut of it, or what's something that people can immediately take with them and start applying and be like, okay, this is the step-by-step guide on how to do it? And I think that was your workshop was on.
Yeah, it's like that's I've been kind of into that for a long time, just trying to get help people if they go. I have no idea what to do.
Yeah.
Get a leg up on that and try to figure out how to do that.
Yeah.
And because I think there's a lot, it's also maybe false information out there, or just wasted time where you're going to read a book that's not really going to give you the right advice. So that's kind of been one of my missions. And I've put different. Bankroll was the book that I wrote. That was kind of the gold standard book on film financing. It's basically telling people how to raise money to shoot their own movie. And that applies to actors, writers, directors, producers. And now, as I told you in the seminar, it's all online. Besides the stuff that I teach live, it's all at filmmakingstuffhq.com, where we've got, over the past 5 years or so, Jason Brubaker and I have created like 20 different products on different areas of movies that are all really helpful. Movies and TV, by the way.
Yeah.
So, I'd say that the key is there's steps that you could take literally right now if you wanted to be working and doing something. And I think that if you're really committed, you should start taking those steps and, making your own movie, starting to plan things like that. And, sooner or later, you realize, oh, crap, that's all I'm doing. That's it. I'm only doing that. And now you're 100% in the movie business. And that's a great feeling.
Beautiful. So going through the step-by-step process that you have outlined, but some of the things that I learned were like totally mind-blowing. Like one of them should have been the most obvious, that script. Having a good script, having a script that walks you through, okay, this is a story that you're trying to tell and film for a movie, right? That's super important. And it's like the plan, like the pre-planning of whatever you're looking to jump into, correct?
Yeah. It's really just putting it in the best possible, scenario as far as stacking the deck goes in your favor. I made the comment in the seminar, and I always say this, is that, a great script doesn't guarantee a great movie, but the opposite is true. A bad script equals bad movie 100% of the time. So if you go start by going, well, nobody's read the script, or, a couple of people read it and said it was okay, it's like you're already going down a bad path. But, the smartest thing you can do is that if you have a great script to start and people like it, oh my God, suddenly bigger talent jumps on, you get like you're involved that you never thought would be involved, and that's a great feeling.
Yeah. So scripts is really good because if you're telling a story and if you have a short film to tell a story, but then you also mentioned something about documentaries, you got to have a great idea.
Yeah, if you're pitching your documentary and you're telling, or even just telling somebody about it, and they're like falling asleep as you're telling them, or they're like, I don't get it. You know what I mean? Like that's you should rework that. And that doesn't mean you have to change the subject. You probably have to change your approach to the subject. And but the opposite again is true. Is if you're pitching a documentary and they go, oh my God, I would love to see that. Yeah. It's like, you have an audience right there. So that's a good thing. That's why I tell people they should always be pitching their projects just to get the feedback. It doesn't matter if you feel like, oh, that person could do nothing for me. It's like, get that feedback from them and their reactions and watch. I've learned so much from people's reactions to my pitches over the years. So, yeah.
Nice. So the short film that we shot, and I want to get a little feedback from you, if you don't mind, is, since we started, okay, this is going to be a short film, movie in a month, but then the idea was, is it going to be a story where you start with a honey jar and then somebody's putting this honey and then you go back in time, kind of like Memento, where's this honey coming from? So that's more like a short film where you're acting stuff out. But then we ended up going in a totally different direction because we didn't have a script, but we did have an idea. Okay, we have beekeepers and, these beekeepers are over here. So we ended up making it more of a documentary where we're interviewing the people, the actual beekeepers. So that's what we ended up doing. So how would have we make that a little better?
Well, I think that planning is always the key to future success or future potential success. That if you had more of an idea first going in, maybe it wouldn't have got so it changed up. And now look, sometimes there's changes that make that are the thing that saves the movie, at the end of the day, if you have a plan and you change that plan, it'll always be stronger than if you have no plan and you just got to kind of make one up on the fly.
Yeah.
So and then hope that you step in the right, pile of gold instead of the pile of crap. So I think that, just having an idea and a plan beforehand next time
Yeah.
that you want to do it, it may deviate from that, but at least you'll know that it's somewhat of, mapped out.
You started with the destination in mind.
Yeah.
Rather than, okay, where are we going to go? And that's what it actually happened is we attended, telling my colleagues, like, let's go check out this, make a movie month, and then maybe we'll join a project, or maybe, we'll just see what happens. And then my colleague just came up with the idea, the colony. We're talking about beekeeping because I'm a beekeeper myself, and it's like, let's talk about you.
Yeah.
Right. So I had experience from a beekeeper's perspective, and I was like, I love filmmaking. This is a perfect cross section of the two. So we ended up making it more of a, like, it all came out of nowhere, and then now hopefully we can make more plans and more concrete ideas around, okay, what beekeeping is. And that's what we ended up trying to promote and trying to talk about in the short film. So let's see what happens. I mean, we were hoping to make it more of a long form documentary where we visit other beekeepers all around the DMV area, because there's a ton of them. There's a ton.
Well, look at it, anything. Look at it. There's a way to make that process work. Where the limitations sometimes are time and money. But when you're kind of discovering something, sometimes it could be interesting. Where you're going, all right, what do we have here? We're going to put together, and you kind of see it. So there's no right, like where this is the only way you have to make art. I just, there's other ways that'll probably be less, time consuming and less money out of pocket and a little bit more focused. But there could be something where you look at it and you go, all right, what do we have? And then you start gathering more beekeeper interviews or whatever the section is, and you start putting it on. You go, all right, now we're starting to make something really cool here. But it's assembling it in a different way, but it doesn't mean an impossible way. Doesn't mean that.
No, that totally makes sense, because that's what we ended up thinking about. It's like, okay, let's just grab more and more footage, go to the different places that people gather and sell honey or whatever. Yeah. Then we'll start seeing a pattern, start seeing the story of the beekeeping, the colony. So that's really good advice. Thank you so much.
Oh, sure.
Awesome. So the process of filmmaking, right? So the other reasons I wanted to talk to you is being an actor, and I've had a knack for the longest time I was like, I want to be a stand-up comedian. And then it's like, okay, maybe I want to do some acting. And then I heard from a friend of mine, like, hey, check out Backstage. There's acting gigs that you can jump on. And I was like, all right, this is pretty interesting. And I got introduced to this whole new world, right? And it just blows my mind, like how many dedicated platforms there are for the film industry. And like, you could just go deeper and deeper, and there's more and more to learn.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's like there's a lot of actors out there, and I always try to say to an actor, the way to set yourself apart is to make your own stuff, and not just wait for the phone to ring or whatever. A lot of times with Backstage, as much as I support them or whatever, that you have tons of people going for the same role. You know what I mean? Like it's almost like cattle calls. Like that's like the first stage of acting. You got these cattle call auditions. Second stage would be you have an agent or manager that's getting you appointment auditions. And then the third stage is, you're just getting offers. People are saying, be in my movie, I'll pay you X, so those are kind of stages. So, you want to graduate. Backstage, a great start, but you want to graduate to getting an agent manager that's getting you appointments and getting you in the door in front of the casting directors.
Right. Okay. And to be an actor, do you need to go to school? Because some of the acting classes that I took or watched through online were through masterclass.com, and there's a few classes being taught on acting by, I think there's one by Kevin Spacey, there's one by Nicole Kidman, I think, but there's a ton of information out there.
Yeah.
What's a proper way to like get into that, or do you just jump in front of a camera and start acting?
Well, some people have a knack for it. I'll say that. Like training can always help. No matter what, if you're great, it's just like being a boxer or something or anything else. You have to get in the ring and actually punch people. You may have a knack for it. You may be speedy with your head and your punches, or whatever. That's great. It's like, but you still need the training. So there's a lot of schools out there that teach acting and things, and you have to be wary. I'm not a big fan of acting school. I'm a big fan of private lessons with personal acting coaches if they're qualified and they have a resume. But at the end of the day, the way to get better at movie acting is just to keep movie acting. It's almost like learning to swim on a chalkboard. You have to jump. You have to jump in the pool. You can learn everything about swimming on the chalkboard, but you got to get in the water. And getting in the water is being in a movie.
Really, really good analogy. That's so true. You have to be doing something. Like, for example, Malcolm Gladwell or Seth Godin say, if you don't have enough bad writing, how are you ever going to have some good writing? So you got to get out and do that bad acting.
Totally. I just said that, there was a Michael Caine book, and I'm a huge fan, by the way, of his book, Acting in Film. It's just for any of the actors that, are out there, it's a great inspirational book because it kind of takes it from the point of view of you've already made it. Like, here's how you want to act on set. Here's little tips. Here's what you want to do in your close-up, like all these things that I still use a lot of his techniques.
Yeah.
But, he was saying the key to doing great work is to do a lot of work. You know what I mean? And then eventually one of them, people start to say, wow, this person's great. So
yeah. Because then you're training your mind and like you said, to get good at anything at all, you got to be doing it. Like, for example, no wonder everybody in the world walks, right? Because you're not going to tell your little child of 1-year-old, you're never going to walk. Don't even try.
Right. Exactly. It's accepted universally.
All over the place. Don't bother. So that's really good. That's really good. Some of the other things that like totally inspired me were like watching a lot of TV show or being in close proximity of people acting. Does that do anything? Because I'm sure that inspires you to do that more.
100%. I'll say a little stories that years ago, and you're going back like 15 years or so. This was when I think Gravesend had already come out, so I'd already done some stuff there. But I wanted to see how the biggest stars and the biggest directors worked and how their process was, and kind of and just observe that. And so what I did is I started taking extra work, background work, and you can do it through the union, and then there's even ways to do it without even being in the union. But, so I was in the background of a bunch of big movies, and it's funny, you go to these things, the background of the movie, and all these actors are like wannabes that just try to get on camera somehow. And I did not want to get on camera. Personally, I'm like, I don't even see me as a background. I'm a lead in a movie, and so that's what I would say. So, but I took the time to watch everybody. I remember analyze that with Robert De Niro. And like I was 2 feet away from him, like for pretty much the whole day. And, because he was reacting to me in the scene, and I'm just watching his performance, watching the director, watching the other stars, and it was like, okay, I get this. And so that's what I would say. Do background work for observation only. When they ask people to volunteer to be on camera, all these hands would go up, and I'd be kind of hiding in the back because I'm like, no way, I don't want to be seen anyway. And so that's how I did it. And I mean, there's ones where I worked in background or had 1 or 2 lines or something like that, and then ended up working and having bigger roles. I mean, a perfect example, I did a 3-line role on a TV show called Kidnapped. That Tim Hutton was one of the leads on the entire show, and then eventually, cutting forward some years later, he was in my movie Alphabet Killer, and I had a bigger role than he did. So that was like kind of fun. But
that's beautiful. That's so beautiful. So one thing that you had mentioned earlier was make your own stuff. And one of the things that reminded me of was the story of Kevin Hart and how like he came out of nowhere, right? And, reading his book, and he was like, I was told to be a stand-up comedian because I'd make all these jokes. and he became a stand-up comedian after working super hard, and then he got a role in a movie, but then he had to wait for like 6 months or 8 months for his TV show to pick up.
Mhm.
And I was like, I am not doing this. This is not Hollywood for me. So he went back on the road and he's like, I'm just gonna do my shows, do my shows, and do my shows.
Yeah.
And he built up his audience. He built up his following so much that now Hollywood goes after him and like, hey, please be in our movie.
Yeah. Well, he's a perfect example of somebody, that worked his butt off and branded himself. So by the time he was, getting noticed and he was in movies, it was like he had a brand. Kevin Hart was a brand, and he was super popular and super famous. And so I think that that's really smart to do. It's like, when you have the key, look at the end of the day, there is obviously a talent component. Hard work does trump it, I think, eventually, but talent is key. And so, because what I'm saying is, if Kevin Hart wasn't the stand-up comic talent that he was, he probably wouldn't have as big a fan base. But so the key is, if you believe your talent and you're going out there and you're doing it, now you can also get better at things like stand-up. You get better and better by more and more experience. And then sooner or later, you're building a brand, you're building a fan base, and now it's like, that's when Hollywood calls, because you're bringing them value. You're bringing them eyeball. So
Yes, that's so true and powerful. So covered a little bit about building your own, where to go with acting. Now, from the production side of things, right, and getting funding for your movie and figuring out those little steps, like you've got the filmmaking stuff, hq.com, and there's a ton of awesome stuff that I saw on there, and I can't wait to go through everything and learn everything that I can. And by the way, I was able to find a copy of your book on eBay.
Was it the blue one or the brown one? Like, the blue one is the first edition, the brown one is the second. Hopefully it's the brown. Yeah.
I got the first edition because I want to have both of them. Like, all right.
A lot changed between 1 and 2, and then obviously 2 and now a lot changed. But yeah.
So we should expect a version 3, or is everything online nowadays?
Yeah, everything's online. They asked me, the publishers, Michael Weiss Publications, are great people.
Yeah, and
they asked me to write a 3rd edition, but the key was, each time you had to write about 30% new material to qualify for a new edition. And things were changing so quick that I'm like, all right, by the time I'm done with this book and it's out there, it's like, I'm going to, want to write a 4th edition. So that's why, when you mentioned filmmaking stuff, HQ being for headquarters, we can always change that. We can add stuff. We can,
absolutely.
And that's so much more dynamic than, a book that's a book. And, like I said, by the time I wrote even the 2nd edition, the 1st edition, there's aspects in it that are completely obsolete, and talking about DVD sales and things like that. And then suddenly, by 2nd edition, there was not even a Blockbuster anymore. So it's like, things change. So
that totally makes sense. One thing Seth Godin mentions is that don't ever go and read commentary on your books, because that book is already published. You're not going to go change it if somebody says, "Oh, I don't like your book," or "I don't like this." So that's online. Having content online is the perfect place to store it, because you can update it. You can have an ongoing conversation in communities like the Facebook communities that you guys have. Really, really powerful.
Cool. Yes, definitely. No, agreed. And you can watch things over and over again, whereas a book, you may not do that. You know what I mean? There's very few books that I've read over and over again, but there's videos I've watched over and over again tons of times. So.
Yeah. That's really cool. All right. One question that I have. So you've been in the industry for over 2 decades.
Yeah.
How has the mentality changed of, from starting out to now change in the industry itself? Like, where has the mentality gone from what it was 20 years ago to now?
Well, I think that there's a couple things. I think that there was a certain aspect that was easier back then, and then a certain aspect that's easier now. The aspect that was easier back then was the bigger paychecks. It's like you used to be able to do one as far as a producer goes, you could produce one independent film a year, and if you did two, you were rocking and rolling.
Wow.
And as an actor, if you did 1, 2, 3 films a year, you were making money hand over foot. So those things were easier because there was DVDs and there was a physical product to pack and ship. Like actually people would buy things.
Yeah.
But now that's gone. It's all on the cloud and it's all VOD. So the profits are not there anymore. You have to, a lot of, people are either out of the industry or doing diversified things like myself with the distribution company, all the other stuff. But what's cool about it from an actor perspective is that there's so many more places now that, you can become Instagram famous, you can become YouTube famous, but there's also, the Ion network and Crackle and all these other networks now. Versus 20 years ago, there weren't that many, and I mean, going back 30 years, there was maybe 5, and now it's like everywhere there's a new station opening up, the new, outlet for content. So there's more opportunities today to get out there and get in front of people, but the money is not what it was. But maybe I think that it's the shift of you're going to make less off of more in more things instead of more off of less.
Very, very true. So going over some of the notes that I took at your workshop, I don't remember if this was brought up at all, but we were talking about a lot about preparing, right? Making sure you have a good script, making sure that you've prepped it really good, making sure you don't have any insane asks in there and, the liabilities, blah, blah, blah. What are your thoughts on the crowdfunding platforms? Because I've been a backer on several short films or several feature films on Kickstarter and Indiegogo. What are your thoughts on that, and how is that helping the movie industry?
I think that it's great for a lot of people that are using it, and I think I applaud you for being a backer on some of the projects. Look, I didn't embrace it like other people did, because initially it was like you had to put all this work in, and you did it for 45 days, 60 days or whatever, and you raise $30,000, and that would be a successful raise on a crowdfunding. To me, it's like I'd rather spend that time working on an investor for double that amount, and pitching them and doing all the things that I normally do. So to me, the effort wasn't there. The other thing that I disliked about it was, I mean, I get asked to pitch in for movies all the time. It's that we're asking family and friends for money, and it's like the first thing they're doing is they're reaching out to their aunts and uncles and all that stuff. And it's like, it's not really not fair. And it kind of puts them on the spot. You know what I mean? It almost like, imagine being at a wedding and just being like, hey, I know that, your daughter just got married, but hey, could you give me $10 for my thing? It's like, so there's that aspect of it that I wouldn't want to do. It's like my friends and family, I'm not going to beg them for money. So those two things I don't really like. What I think that's positive about it, and one of my old producing mentors, I was embracing it, and I thought, oh, that's strange. And she told me it's good marketing. She didn't even care about the money raising from Kickstarter. She was caring about the eyeballs that she got involved in the story of the movie early on. There's people that she could go and they could be mouthpieces for her later on when the movie is made. So I think that there's an aspect of it like that that's super helpful, but it's not necessarily my thing. Let's put it that way.
No, that's a really good point, because especially after you going through the process of defining, like writing the Bankroll book and defining, okay, this is how you get funding. Like literally before Kickstarter even existed. There's no way, right? Like it doesn't make sense, because there's, like you mentioned, there's a lot of effort, and there's a lot of effort that goes into not just the campaign, the 45 days or the 60 days the campaign is live, but then like, have you prepared anything before you even started a campaign, right?
Yes.
So those really good points. Because one of the examples that I can think of recent, so good friend Pat Flynn of Smart Passive Income, he's a podcaster and a really great teacher. So they created a product for cameras for vloggers essentially, and he's like, it took us 1 year of pre-marketing before we even like start the Kickstarter project. But what helped them is that in the first day or the first 11 hours, they were able to like reach their 100% goal of $150,000.
Wow. You know,
Right.
and that's great. You know, it's like, I think that's the successful way to do it. There's people that are, you know, they just start their Kickstarter campaign and hope that they put a goal in 30 days, 45 days, 60 days later, the money's just there. You know what I mean? They think it's
exactly.
Gonna, and that's not the case. You know, sometimes those people for that 150,000, he might have worked way harder than I have ever done for raising $5 million or something.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But it also comes from a different, like, he's been a marketer for the past 10 years, right? So that experience also plays in, just like your experience of going through the process of, okay, this is what you need to do, the step by step to make sure that you can, you know, get funding from an investor or from a bank or wherever you're getting funding from. So really, really good points. Awesome. Some cool story you'd like to share that nobody's heard before.
Cool story that nobody's heard before pertaining to the movie business?
The movie business.
Well, gosh.
Or anything else. I mean, life in general, because this is a podcast on hacks and hobbies.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Maybe I'll do something on one of the hobbies that was, you know.
Thank you for listening to Hacks and Hobbies.
Yeah, we can
You
totally
can find
jump into
additional
those.
information on the guest today on the website hacksandhobbies.com. Please feel free to subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss out on upcoming interviews with amazing guests.
And I'm very good. And, you know, but the key was it was 2009, I believe, and it was World Poker Tour Celebrity Invitational Tournament. And so it was a 2-day tournament, and they brought in all these celebrities, and I was able to get in. Just Love and Dancing had come out, and I was in. There's big people. I mean, Terry Hatcher and Randy Couture, you know, I remember McCarthy, Cameron Manheim, you know, a lot of the guys from Entourage. It was a big thing. And so I went in, and you know, when I was a kid, played 5-card draw. I had no idea how to play Texas Hold'em. And I was sitting there at the table, and, you know, when you meet somebody, and by the way, at my table was Laura Prepon, who from That 70s Show and Orange is the New Black, and Matt Lillard from Scream. Nice. And then there was the guy, Bob Guinea, who was, I guess, The Bachelor at the time. I don't watch reality much. Yeah. And so they were all at my table. And so I realized, you know, when I'm on a red carpet, I normally talk to somebody 30 seconds. Oh, you know, I'll bring up a mutual friend, you know, oh, we had so-and-so, and then blah, blah, blah. And that's versus these people, I'm sitting there with them for hours. We're sitting there talking to each other and getting, you know, his number. And it's like, we're hanging out, making jokes and everything. Yeah. And so I'm pretending to text on my phone, but I'm actually Wikipediaing how to play Texas Hold'em, pretending to text, you know, oh, I got to get back to Joe here, you know, and I'm going, oh my God, you know, and all I'm doing is reading how to do it. And, you know, and basically I posted on Facebook, somebody helped me out, and people just said, fold, you know, as much as you can until you get king, or ace. That's all I did. Anyway, bottom line is, I realized, you know, this is the way I kind of do stuff normally, is that I just became a student of the game. I started reading books and PDFs and playing. Yeah. And, you know, now, that was 2009. It's like, so now it's almost 10 years later. And it's like, every tournament I walk into, I'm considered one of the top players, one of the three now. And it's like, I mean, I won the Reno Poker Tour Celebrity Invitational 2 years ago. That's the one that Jack Black used to host. And I just played it again. I think I came in 13th, but I got a bad beat. But I mean, I came in 5th in Ed Asner's tournament earlier last year. And so the bottom line is, I have made so many connections through playing poker. One of the films I did, Hero of the Underworld, I would say 90% of the cast were poker buddies. You know, Quentin Newman, who was the big guy from The Blind Side with Sandra Bullock. He was the star of the movie with her. Yeah. He's a poker buddy, and he was in a movie. We did a movie together, truly because I asked him, and I said, you know, would you love to do this? And so, all these people, like, it became like the new golf in a way. Yeah. And that's what I love about it, is that I've played many celebrities, and people respect me now because I'm good. And so there it is. So it's like I said, it came from, if you had seen me at first when I'm playing and I had no idea what I was doing, to now, it's a completely different story. So,
That's so cool. And it's really true, right? Like, so many different hobbies, like once you get into it, you'll find people from different areas of the world, that like what their profession is. Like one of the beekeepers that we interviewed, he'd been working at CNN for 10 years. He created one of the first like in the nature documentary series production. And I was like, wow,
that's cool.
Areas of people that you meet, it's really, really amazing.
Yeah, you know, you do these hobbies. You're right. You know, and I have several hobbies. Not a ton, but you know, I do jiu-jitsu for a long time, and you know, I've met many people, celebrities through there. You know, and I was training in Beverly Hills with Higa Machado. It's like I remember wrestling with Ashton Kutcher. You know, Higan always has celebrities training there. You know, and it's like that was cool, and it's just a hobby. You know, when you're totally right. When you have a hobby that's unique, like beekeeping or something like that, you find out, oh, so and so likes to do beekeeping, and you know, likes jiu-jitsu or poker, and that's fun, and you end up having a common ground with that person.
Yeah, really awesome. So, to our questions, what would be the one hobby that we should get into? And I think we talked about it.
I think it's poker. I mean, as far as helping your career as an actor, I definitely think it's poker, because you go in and you say, well, you know, maybe you get famous enough to be invited to these tournaments, and then you go in, you're like, oh, I don't really know how to play. You get much less respect. Even the celebrities, like, people want the good players, and those are the ones that get respect. So it took a while, but once I got good enough to people said, oh, don't mess with him. That was a much better feeling, and I got a whole new level of respect there. So,
Really, really cool. Yeah. All right, so you come from the movie industry and the TV. What would be your favorite movie or TV show?
Well, they're different for each. I mean, in movies, I have personal favorites. Like, you know, I love a lot of old movies. I love Casablanca. I love On the Waterfront, because I'm a huge Marlon Brando fan. And actually, his last name is Malloy in that movie.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, Terry Malloy. So I love old movies, and those I just named two of my favorites. TV is different. You know, of course, I love the great shows like The Wire and Breaking Bad, but I really I was a huge fan for years of The Simpsons, you know, being able to quote any episode and just a high level comedy.
Yeah.
You know, now it's like my favorite shows are still animation, still high level comedy. I think the only comedy that I watch that's not animation is It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. But
oh my God.
Yeah, my favorite of the live action, but Rick and Morty. You know, I used to love Archer, and that got a little weird, but Big Mouth, like, to me, I'd say Rick and Morty is probably my favorite show currently, but South Park still brings it every once in a while. So, you know, I love animation. I love animation comedy. So.
Very, very cool. Yeah. Funny thing about the TV show you mentioned earlier.
It's Always Sunny?
Yes, Always Sunny in Philadelphia, right? Yeah. And I was reading their story and how they were like, okay, like for the pilot episode, they had to put something down on how much it cost them.
$200.
It's like maybe $200 or something like that, right?
Yeah.
I was just blown away. Like 4 guys to pick up a camera, shoot a pilot, and now they've been going on strong for what, 11, 12 years?
I think they're in their 13th season. 13th, and, exactly. Yeah, I mean, Charlie's Got Cancer was the first episode. You could watch it on YouTube. Yeah, they shot it for $200. And it's like, you know, they just got it in the right hands of FX. So I'd say that's a tip for anybody, is like, make something that's really funny, and hopefully it'll capture the zeitgeist and gets in front of the right people. And now you're set. So, yeah.
Beautiful. Next question. Who is your favorite superhero?
Oh, favorite superhero. Okay, I got it. I would say a Green Lantern. I've always, and I'll tell you why, is that, I'm not, it's not that I'm well-versed in his comics. I was a fan of the character itself. I've always wanted to play him in the big budget movie, studio movie. Not, obviously there's multiple Green Lanterns, but Hal Jordan is who I'm talking about. Yeah. But they screwed him up so bad. And I never wanted, it was never a desire of mine to either make the movie, write the movie, or be in the movie until I saw the movie that they screwed up so bad. This character that's notoriously has no fear, and that's lost it when he was a kid. Yeah. And they make Ryan Reynolds, and he's scared the whole damn movie. It's like, what do you thought? You just crapped all over this character. And it's just ridiculous, So that would make me go, all right, this has to be done right. Yeah. And I don't want to do it off of a Rebirth, which was one of their comics that they wrote. And so anyway, the bottom line is it's Hal Jordan.
Nice. Yeah, he is A lot of people didn't like the movie, and funny thing, Ryan Reynolds makes fun of himself.
Yes. Oh yeah.
Well, he's like, I'm finally a superhero with an actual suit.
Yeah. Well, that's great. At the end of Deadpool 2, he kills himself, when he decides to play Green Lantern. That was awesome. Yeah, I love that.
Yep. He's really good. Yeah. All right. Last question. If you were a board game, what would it be?
Oh, gosh. That's a great question. I would say Life would be an interesting one. And now, the problem with the game, it was always kind of a fun game to play, but the problem with the game of Life was that you had to follow certain paths, or else, you wouldn't get the, you didn't go to college, you never made as much money, you know what I mean? Which is not true in real life. But the cool thing about it was that it was a journey, and you never know where it was going to take you. And so I enjoy that. I clearly have life energy, as you saw, 100% natural, it's like I don't take supplements. And it's, I enjoy living and the adventure of new things every day, and so I'd say that's, if what I would choose is probably a life board game.
Nice. Yeah. That's a really good answer, and a really good game. Unfortunately, I've never played Life.
Oh no!
Like the game. Yeah, I need to go check it out. I've grown up playing Scrabble, Risk, and Monopoly, and then my recent favorite is Catan.
So I never played Catan. Did you ever play Stratego, by the way?
I might have.
Yeah, it's a really fun game. It was who got it? I think it was my brother-in-law, who's much younger than me, got it for a Christmas gift, and him and I just read the directions and started playing, and it was a really fun strategy game. Yeah, if you ever get a chance to play it, you could pick one up. We got that. He had gotten the classic wooden version. It was like a throwback thing that I think they put out. Not Warner Brothers. Milton Bradley put it out, and so so check it out if you get a chance. It's a real fun game to play.
Awesome. I will definitely check Stratego out.
Yeah, cool.
Well, Tom, this was an excellent conversation. I really loved learning your life story, your journey, and talking about the movies, talking about the movie industry, being an actor, producing, and just getting out there and do it. Like Nike said it best, just do it.
Yeah.
Whatever's got in your mind, just go out and make it happen.
Yeah, I say jump in the pool, man. It's like, don't just talk about doing it, jump in the pool.
That's right. Well, thank you so much, Tom. I do look forward to keeping in touch with you and following your journey in the movie industry, and learning more about, what it is to be in the Writers Guild, and what it is to be in the different areas, and how to make it. And I might have to learn some poker.
I think you'd be smart to do that. So, yes, great.
Awesome.
Great.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Have me on the show. And check out, if anybody's listening that wants to learn more, check out Filmmaking Stuff HQ.headquarters.com.
Yep, that was my last question. Where can my audience find you? And that's the perfect place. And you can also find him. To learn more about him, you can go to the IMDb, Tom.
Yeah. Or just TomMalloy.com. Yeah, that's
TomMalloy.com. That's a perfect place. Awesome. I will include all those links in the show notes, and looking forward to talking to you. And then I'll let you know when the podcast goes live.
Great. Thank you very much for having me.
All right. Take care.
Cool.
Congratulations, you made it to the end of the episode. Thanks so much for listening to our guest on this episode. Please send me an email at Junaid@hacksandhobbies.com to tell me what you loved about our guest today. You could find links mentioned in this episode on the hacksandhobbies.com website.